Right now, you're going to check your phone. You don't need to. Nothing important happened in the last 4 minutes, but your thumb is already moving toward it. You think this is a modern habit. It isn't. The real answer is far stranger. Your brain was built for a world that no longer exists. Not metaphorically, literally. The organ inside your skull right now is, biologically speaking, almost identical to the one inside the skull of a person who lived 10,000 years ago. Same wiring, same alarms, same rewards. The only thing that changed is everything around it. Think about that phone check. For most of human history, sudden movement or unexpected information meant something. A rustle in the grass, a shift in the wind, a sound that wasn't there a second ago. Your ancestors who paid attention to small, unexplained signals survived. The ones who ignored them didn't get a second chance. So evolution built you an alert system, a part of your brain whose only job is to notice when something changes and demand you check it immediately. That system doesn't know the difference between a leopard and a text message. It just knows something changed, and it wants you to look. This is the strange part. You are walking around in the 21st century, surrounded by elevators and Wi-Fi and oat milk, operating on hardware that was finished, evolutionarily speaking, somewhere around the end of the last ice age. Anthropologists call this idea evolutionary mismatch. It means the environment changed thousands of times faster than the brain inside it. Here's a number worth sitting with. Homo sapiens has existed for roughly 300,000 years. Agriculture is about 12,000 years old. Cities are younger than that. Industrial life is barely 200 years old. The internet is younger than most of the adults reading this sentence. If you compressed all of human history into a single 24-hour day, agriculture wouldn't begin until 11:54 at night. The internet would arrive in the last half second. Your brain had no time to update for any of it. Sleep is one of the clearest places to see the mismatch in action. For most of human history, darkness was the cue. The sun went down, the world dimmed, and a hormone called melatonin rose to tell the body it was time to rest. There was no other option. No artificial light source bright enough to argue with the sky. Now you lie in bed with a screen 6 inches from your face, and that screen emits the exact wavelength of light your brain associates with daytime. Sleep researcher Charles Czeisler, who has spent much of his career studying circadian rhythms at Harvard Medical School, has shown that exposure to light in the blue spectrum in the evening can suppress melatonin production and delay the body's natural sleep signal by hours. Your brain isn't malfunctioning when it stays wired at midnight. It's doing exactly what it was built to do. It's reading the light in the room and concluding, correctly, by its own ancient logic, that it must still be daytime. So what does that actually mean for you? Today, in your actual life, it means your fear of public speaking isn't really about public speaking. Psychologist Paul Gilbert has studied what's known as the threat system, the part of your brain that scans for social danger the same way it once scanned for physical danger. Standing in front of a group of strangers and feeling every eye on you triggers almost the same biological alarm as being surrounded by an unfamiliar tribe on an open plain. In a small hunting and gathering group, exclusion wasn't an inconvenience. It was a death sentence. No tribe meant no food sharing, no protection, no mates, no survival. Your nervous system still treats a bad presentation like a banishment. It means your anxiety about money isn't really about numbers in a bank app. It's an ancient resource scarcity alarm. The same circuitry that once worried about whether there'd be enough food before the next hunt, now misfiring over a checking account balance it cannot actually parse. It means your craving for sugar, salt, and fat isn't a character flaw. For nearly the entire span of human existence, calorie-dense food was rare and unpredictable. A brain that lit up with reward at the taste of something sweet or fatty was a brain attached to a body that survived the next famine. Researcher Daniel Lieberman, who studies the evolutionary biology of the human body at Harvard, has pointed out that the very same instincts that once kept our ancestors alive during scarcity are now working against us in a world of abundance. You're not weak, you're efficient. You're just efficient for a world that no longer exists. And it means your obsessive need to know what other people think of you isn't vanity. For most of human history, you knew everyone in your social world personally. Maybe 150 people, total, across an entire lifetime. That number even has a name. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar calculated it by studying the relationship between primate brain size and group size, and found that the human brain appears cognitively limited to maintaining stable relationships with around 150 people. That's it. That was your whole social universe. Every face mattered. Every opinion mattered, because your survival depended on the group's approval. Now imagine that brain, built for a village of 150 familiar faces, suddenly exposed to an audience of millions through a screen. It cannot tell the difference between a comment from a stranger on the internet and a verdict from your entire tribe. It reacts the same way. It just doesn't have the context to know the stakes are different. Consider what happens when you post something online and watch the numbers. A like feels good. A lack of likes feels like something closer to grief. That reaction seems disproportionate until you remember what silence from the group used to mean. In a small band of hunter-gatherers, if your contribution to the group went unacknowledged, that wasn't a neutral event. It was information. It told you your standing had slipped. Anthropologist Christopher Boehm, who spent decades studying egalitarian hunter-gatherer societies, documented how these groups actively monitored each other's behavior and used social approval or disapproval as a primary tool for keeping order. Approval wasn't a nice bonus, it was currency. It determined who ate well, who found a mate, who got protected when things went wrong. Your brain still keeps that ledger. It just doesn't realize the ledger no longer determines whether you eat tonight. This is also why criticism cuts so much deeper than praise lifts you up. Researchers studying what's sometimes called the negativity bias have found, again and again, that the human brain assigns more psychological weight to negative information than to positive information of equal size. One harsh comment can outweigh 50 kind ones. That isn't a personal flaw. It's an ancient survival setting. A missed threat could kill you. A missed compliment couldn't. So the brain evolved to overweight the bad news, just in case. You're not too sensitive. You're correctly calibrated for a world that no longer matches the one you live in. This is where things get genuinely unsettling. Because your brain isn't just misreading modern threats. It's misreading modern rewards too. Every notification, every like, every tiny red dot on an app icon is engineered, deliberately, to exploit a reward system that evolved to respond to unpredictable food sources and social information. Variable reward. You don't know what you'll get when you check. That uncertainty is the hook. Slot machines use the exact same principle. So does a beehive your ancestors might have found in a hollow tree. Sometimes it's full of honey. Sometimes it's empty. The not knowing is what kept them checking, and it's what keeps you checking now. You weren't designed to resist this. Nobody was. You're not undisciplined. You're using a hunter-gatherer's curiosity engine inside a casino built by engineers who understand exactly how that engine works. So why hasn't your brain caught up? Because evolution doesn't work on a deadline. Genetic change happens across thousands of generations, shaped by whether a trait helps you survive long enough to reproduce. Cultural and technological change happens across years, sometimes months. The two timelines aren't even close. Anthropologists sometimes describe this gap using the phrase Stone Age minds in a space age world. It sounds almost like a joke. It isn't. It's closer to a diagnosis. Consider stress itself. Your body has one main chemical response to danger, regardless of what kind of danger it is. A spike in cortisol, a surge of adrenaline, a heart rate that climbs and muscles that tense, ready to run or fight. This response was built for short, physical emergencies. A predator, a fall, a fight over territory that resolved in minutes, one way or another. Evolutionary biologist Robert Sapolsky, who has spent decades comparing stress in wild baboons to stress in humans, has pointed out that most non-human animals experience stress in brief, intense bursts, tied to an actual physical threat, and then it's over. Humans, by contrast, can trigger that same full-body chemical alarm just by thinking about an email, a deadline, or a conversation that hasn't even happened yet. The threat doesn't have to be real. It just has to feel real to a brain that can't tell the difference between imagined danger and a charging animal. Your body still floods itself with the same chemicals either way. It was never built to be stressed for 8 hours at a desk. It was built to be stressed for 90 seconds and then either run or relax. Here's the part that should genuinely surprise you. This mismatch doesn't just explain your bad habits, it explains some of your best qualities too.